Hi, and welcome to another episode of Queer, Black, and Awkward. I'm your host, Orion, and thanks for tuning in. You can catch all of the latest episodes on every platform you listen to podcasts on, so go check it out. On today's episode, I have with me
Cassandra Thompson.
Yes, so introduce yourself to the world.
Cool. Okay. My name is Cassandra. I'm a full circle or full spectrum, as many call it, doula or birth worker, and one of the founding members of Okama Collective, a really dope doula, IBPOC queer trans doula collective that just started here in Toronto. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you're on this episode.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here because I'm hella queer, hella black, and hella awkward. So it fits.
The tribe.
Yes, that's the trifecta.
It is.
100%.
So on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a bit of their work and the medical field and birth and all of that. So if you're triggered about that, then maybe
Heads
this episode is just not for you.
Yep.
So,
and that's totally cool.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into it, usually what I do to set the mood is I ask my guests what's their mood and color. So I'll go first to let you think about it.
Thank you.
My mood is I would say joyful, and my color burgundy.
Ooh, I like that.
What's yours?
My mood is like transformative today. I like trying to like where every bit of my mood is, I'm just trying to like see transformation in it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my mood is flip-flop so much. So transformation. And my color is, as it's been for a while now, yellow though, because a bitch trying to stimulate that solar plexus, you know, that power
Solar
center.
plexus, shining brighter than your necklace.
So I'm trying to like, just keep on bringing out like, as I guess with that transformative action, like sense of power, sense of self, sense of security. So yellow.
Awesome. So can you tell us a bit about like your cultural background?
Yeah, totally. So I am adopted. So a lot of my knowing of my biological background is definitely still up in the air. I'm low-key always waiting to like meet every aspect of my, like every person in my birth family and find out that everything I was told that who I am is a lie. So what I know I am is Jamaican, English, so British English. Irish is in there somewhere. I've been told that Dino is in there somewhere as well. And so I'm a real mishmash. I'm a mixed up baby. Yeah.
That's interesting because like I kind of identify with that a bit. I'm not adopted. But my dad is ashamed of being Haitian because I'm half Haitian, half Vincentian. So I have, I'm connected to like my Vinci side, but my Haitian side I'm very disconnected, and I'm like slowly learning a bit more about that. So
yeah, and I mean, I think that learning about my Jamaican heritage specifically is what sort of started me on the path of like being a doula, and I think also started me on the path of like plant medicine work. I mean, my whole business is named Seed and Sarasi, and Sarasi is, a patois term for bitter melon leaf, right? Which you find bitter melon in many parts of Abya Yala, or like the lands that we call like the Caribbean, and like South America. But like, trying to figure out who I am is really what took me along this path of like birth work and birth care and like reclaiming old practices. And so it's definitely been this like navigation of myself along with also being a practice of like learning the earth of the earth and water teachings of birth. 100%. Yeah. It's amazing how, like, I guess being pulled away from our birthright and our blood can actually be the exact thing that brings us closer to it. Yeah.
That's the irony of life, right?
Ashe.
For sure. So that was going to be my next question. Like, your calling into like doula work and birth work.
I'm one of the few people who I think I wasn't sparked, like a lot of doulas and birth workers you talk to, they were sparked into it through having a child themselves. And I have not had any babies. I've actually never been pregnant. But my journey sort of started with plant medicine, I think, in a big way, and also wanting to understand my blackness and understand, and further from my blackness, really understand, like in a very nationalistic, like what it means to be Jamaican. For me, in this mixed up body. And so plant medicine started to introduce itself to me from young. I used to my mom has like photos of me randomly praying to plants when I was a kid. And she's like, I never taught you to pray, A. She's never been a plant person, B, my grandma. But when I used plant medicine to heal myself through different ailments growing up, like especially addiction, and carry me through, and I still am having to look at it as a way to continue to carry me through addiction. I think I realized a lot of the plants that I would use to help me with withdrawal, to help me with like sort of the anxiety, the pain, and all of the symptoms of withdrawal, and wanting to bring myself to a place of not having to be in the present with my body where it's at. Those are the same medicines that we would use in birth work to help someone who is laboring to not try to escape their body and be present with their body where it's at in order to have their baby safely, and also in a way that feels empowered to them, knowing that they are the ones who did it and they stayed present in their body for that process. And for those who want to, like there are some who want to, belly birth, be put out, and that's totally your jam. But a lot of these plant medicines were meant for supporting us in like, if you're going to be present and be with it, stay there. And I only realized that years later when I was like, what does Erykah Badula mean? Because when I was on Twitter, Erykah Badu's name was Erykah Badula. I don't know what it is anymore because I'm not on Twitter. Yeah. But one day she posted this photo of her and Mama Shafia Monroe, and I was like, who are these? Like, who's this radiant woman? And so I looked it up, and she was the one who started the International Center for Traditional Childbearing, which is now called by another name, and she has her own company, Shafia Monroe Consulting, but she does this doula training for folks who want to support, because she is African-American, as she says, but Black folks, really, and folks of the African diaspora. And I was like, wow, I would love to learn that, because even when I was in like school and stuff, like I definitely went to people's births in high school. My nickname was Mama Cass. When people were sad about something, when, I was one they would come to. So I was like, I could do this. And, and from like that moment on, I was just sort of like, let me look into this and see what it's like. I went to the training, realized that, I felt an alignment in that training. And then started in the work like shortly after, and now I've officially been doing this for like 2 years. And one of my elders told me that it's definitely purpose work for me, because it's teaching me about earth, it's teaching me about water, it's teaching me how to be a human. So I'm definitely not coming from the perspective of I'm going out there and trying to shift the statistics. I think that just by being present and supporting folks in moving through one of the biggest rites of passage of their life for those who do choose to have a child, that will shift the statistic. Like if we're just coming from it from a mindset of, I want to work with my community, I want to learn from my community, and I want to learn from the people that I get to support and witness through this process. Like I'm not saving or helping no one. That will just shift it, right? Like coming from a healing centered and trauma informed perspective, that will shift it. So like, don't get me wrong, I definitely see the statistics, and the fact that Black women are dying or having complications in labor 3 to 4 times more likely than white women are. In Canada, it's an even stronger and darker statistic for Indigenous women. but I think if I'm focused on the problem, I won't find myself centered around how to solve it and how to heal
solution.
it. And so I'm trying to let earth and water be my guide on that in this work. And so far, I feel like things are going pretty well. And I'm really loving it. Yeah. Okay. And it's cool to see people transform, because I literally get to watch people transform for a living.
Right?
Yeah.
What you were talking about, like being present, is there like a danger if you're giving birth that if you're not present, or what's
I think what first and foremost, like the medicalization of the process, they look at pregnancy and labor as a medical emergency, and it's never been. It only becomes a medical emergency when it becomes a medical emergency. But if we hold space for this to be a natural process, it's amazing how things shift. And so sometimes what folks and also too, folks like really don't listen to like Black folks when they're speaking. Like when I'm supporting white folks, it's amazing how quick like doctors are like, let's take care of your pain. Oh, you look like you're in so much pain. Right? But when it's a Black woman, oh, just get over it and move, like just get over it, you're fine, you can walk it off kind of thing. And I feel like the walk it off creates medical emergencies that don't need to be there. And then not being reflective of their acts and the way that they've treated someone in this process, they then decide that, oh, it couldn't have been us that created the problem, so therefore pregnancy and labor is a fucking problem. It's not. So I think like that setup in and of itself creates an issue. And then when they start to hypermedicate people, it puts them out. And when you're put out, you can't consent to anything. You can't deny anything. You lose your capacity to use your voice in the process. And so being present makes it such that you don't lose your voice. In fact, it becomes heightened. In fact, it becomes stronger. And if anything, when people are present in their labor, they're not like impaired, like they're just like you and me, but they're moving through a arduous physical process. And when you're pissed about something and you're not feeling good, you will call for what you want, right? You'll call for what you want. And so that presence actually does create, I think facilitates one's voice through the labor process. And that is what constantly ends up being silenced. And that's where medical emergencies come from, because people not being in the body of the person that they're taking care of walk into this work going, I'm saving people and I'm helping people, and they make it about them as opposed to making it about the people they're working with. And so they think, okay, let me put you out pain wise. But when they're put out, there's this slippery slope, for lack of a better way to say it, that ends up like building and like falling, you fall down in terms of one intervention is going to definitely mean another intervention or another intervention or another. And I say sometimes possibly, but I could say sometimes possibly, but I say definitely because I've watched it happen enough that like, if someone gets an epidural, well, then you have to have a catheter. Then you can't walk to progress labor. Then you can't, there's so many things that you can't do. And that will shift the way that your labor can look if, not able to move or not able to, right? Yeah. So that's where I think presence is important. It allows you to, when you're present in your body, your true aligned, like centered voice from the heart, from the throat, and from the third eye is clear and loud, and from the stomach, the solar plexus, your power center, that I am, yeah, that's why I think presence is important.
Yeah, honestly, and I feel that in life in general too, like just being present and like living by moment in life too is just so important, because then you'll just by being present, you'll know what you need, what you don't need, what you need to consume, what you don't, like it's just, everything is just so much better. Because like honestly, because like before I was not present in life, and now being present, I can definitely see the difference. And claiming your full self. Like your full truest self, and not performing for anyone. Or 100%. That alignment feels a whole next way. And people could come fuck with you all you want, and it's like, actually no. I know who I am. Thank you very much. Like, skirt.
Skirt.
Goodbye.
100. Oh, thank you.
I know. So why do you think doulas are needed?
We essentially are just meant to be, I call us gap fillers And I'm sure a lot of doulas would be like, excuse me? But I call us gap fillers, because we're not your clinician, right? So our role is not to give you medical advice, but our role is definitely to be educated on the benefits, risks, and alternatives for any decision you can make through the labor process so that we can support you in your medical decisions. Because your clinician, if it's an OB or a midwife, they can't do anything to you unless you consent to it. None of the tests, none of the ultrasounds, not even while you're in labor, if you don't want to have your cervix checked to see your progression, you can deny it, right? And so denying or consenting to certain things may shift outcomes, and it's our responsibility to know how that process could go so we can inform you so that your birth is closest to the one that you feel like you decided on and you created for yourself. And so that's a big way we fill in the gaps, because midwives, like a lot of clinicians, they have so many clients that they can't be present to go through each decision with you sometimes. They literally just can't, because also self-care.
Yeah.
And obstetricians just like they won't, and they also can't, but their mindset is very different. And we have understanding on some of like the old methodologies, the old medicines, the old ways that are still valid and still work beautifully. But we've lost a lot of those teachings. And so creating space for those teachings so that one can make a decision, that's really key. We're also the one who is the buffer in hospital spaces or in birth center spaces, or even in your home with family, with your partner, to help elevate your voice, right? Like to create space for when folks aren't listening to you to actually be someone who steps in, who's on your side, who's like, the one who has your back, is watching your six and going, actually, hold on, I think that my client was saying something different. Do you want to say that one more time? Like creating space for that voice to be heard, because sometimes even when you're using your voice and you're present and you're full in it, people just ignore you. And so we are the ones who go, we don't speak for you, but we just sort of try to shift the energy in the room so that folks do listen to you.
Okay.
And hear you. And so if you don't consent to something, you're not being pushed or pressured into it. You actually are given a moment to stop, think about it, and go, no, actually, I don't want that. I know that they're saying that they think this is the best thing, but something's telling me that that's not the best thing for me. And I want to trust my instinct because that's reasonable. We will make sure you know all the risks associated with it. That's the decision you want. Cool. It's not for me to change your decision. I'm not your, I'm not your doctor. It's for me to go, okay, now let me elevate your choice so that it's heard. We also do a lot of like that, like parent care stuff. So oftentimes through like birth and labor, people are really fucking focused on the baby. And it's like,
and they forget about the actual like human being that's like,
no shade. I love babies, but what the fuck? Like someone is carrying another being in them who does not have cognition, who cannot express their opinion or nothing. But the person who's carrying them is completely capable and is navigating a whole bunch of like new understandings about their existence as they're growing this being inside of them. And yet we're more worried about that fucking fetus than we are about the person who's having the child. And I see it all the time. Like everyone will be really like, oh, you're pregnant. As soon as that baby is born, fuck the parent.
Yeah, I know.
That's how
disgusting.
it is. And they're expected to go right back to everything that's start cooking, start cleaning, start doing all this, that. That's bullshit, right? And so where we come in is we are all about that parent who gave birth. We will massage you if you want it, right? There are some who don't really want to be touched, and that's cool. So we talk to you about like, how do you want to be cared for? Do you want to have meals made for you? Do you want me to just come and take your kids so you can go have a good time, and live your life, right? Mm-hmm. And be your own person and not just a parent, yeah. Right? And so we try to help create that space where one does not lose themselves in parenthood. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a big role for us as well too. And then obviously like looking at Black and queer community, our role is to provide resources and bridge gaps in terms of access. And so like I've gone to court for a client before. I've had to find housing for a client before. I've helped someone move. Like I've done all of these other things because, we're like, how do we make someone's pregnancy and labor and postpartum experience better by helping to break down obstacles and barriers to their joy and to their contentment and to their rest. And if we break down those barriers through all of the other things that create stress and anxiety and raise our blood pressure, because everything medical is rooted in something emotional, mental, spiritual, and I support anyone's belief system, but that is mine. And I've seen when we help to create access and break down the barriers for those who are, facing racism on the daily, facing homophobia and transphobia on the daily, facing patriarchy on the daily, and all of the systemic and institutionalized realities that those sort of worldviews have created for all of us living here in the Western world. When we create access to break down the barriers that shit creates, that's automatically going to help someone have a much better pregnancy and labor. And so that's what I really think our role is mostly in this process. Yeah.
When I recently found out about like doulas, because I'm a fan of Kehlani. So,
yeah.
And she recently had a baby.
Yep.
And she took like the natural route, and she was like posting like all of like her journey and like in her pregnancy. Yep. And then that's how I was like aware of like doulas and
yeah, because she had the baby at home. She had the baby in one of the best positions to push a baby out.
What position?
Squatted, holding up against a chair, like pushing baby down. Yeah.
That's
water
the best
births
way?
are nice. Well, honestly, the best way is the way that feels good for you. You can be in a sideline position. You could be in a tub as well too. But I know that for me, when it comes time to have a baby, I want to be on a chair and I want gravity to help me, because I'll never forget Kelly Train. Hail you up, girl. In my class in sociology, she was talking to us about patriarchy and the way that it has infected birth and labor, and how we actually didn't start pushing babies out on our backs until the medicalization of it, where obstetricians started to be created and what they called, quote unquote, ladies doctors started to be developed in Europe. And they were the ones who were going to deliver babies. And that was the beginning of OBs. And the whole point of having someone lie on their back is so that male doctor can be the one to deliver the baby for you. And Kelly Train, I remember when she was trying to get the point across to us, she goes, okay, everyone in class, I need to say this to you a different way. Who in this classroom takes a shit lying on their back? Put your hand up. And of course, none of us put our hand up because we don't go lie down on our back to poop. She goes, so then why the fuck would anyone have a baby lying on their fucking back? That's not going to help you push. You need gravity to help you push. You need your body in an upright position and stuff like that to help you push, right? And that'll automatically remove the need in a lot of circumstances for vacuum, for forceps, for anyone to have to pull your child out of you when you're not lying on your back. Because you don't have to have a baby pulled out of you. You don't. Right? So
I learned something.
Yeah, no, Kehlani 100%. And then the other one, Slickwoods, was the other one who I think really put people onto doulas, because she had Erica Badu as her doula.
Oh, Erica Badu
was her doula. Yeah, Erica was her doula. Yeah. And I can say gratefully, like, Erica Badu and I were trained by the same woman, Mama Shafia Monroe. We got the same doula training. And I don't know, that's something that I carry a lot of pride with, because, as much as, I love me some Erica, I love me some music, her biological determinism is a little fucked up. I'm not really into that whole thinking that she has, but like, I see her as a healer, and Mama Shafia Monroe is definitely a healer, and I feel mad honored to know that I got to sit in the same space. And a lot of the doulas in Okama Collective are also trained by Mama Shafia Monroe. Yeah. And then have obviously, with our lived experiences here in Toronto, have shifted a lot of the understanding from a U.S. perspective to a Canadian perspective. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And since the 2 years that you've been a doula, officially.
Yeah.
What are the things that you've noticed, like, in the industry that needs to change for the better to be more inclusive?
Yeah. We need more Black midwives. We need more doulas to stop to look into themselves, to really understand the reason, and not not about saving other people, but really looking into themselves and what's growing them by being in this work, because I think it creates a longevity, and it will also change the way that we support people, because sometimes if we walk in with a savior complex, we'll start trying to give people help that they did not ask for. And so we need to remember consent in that way. Consent.
Yeah. A
consent.
Big one.
And 3, consent.
Consent.
I feel like
Capital C.
Like, I feel like a lot of people don't realize like what consent really looks like. And it's like, it's not just going, okay, I'm going to do this now. Okay. No, it's not. It's okay. So this is what I would like to do based on this, and this. Are you comfortable with this procedure happening? Is there more information you need to know? And do you consent or not? And they might say yes. And then even at every step, further consent. Okay, I'm going to start the procedure. This is what's happening. Do you consent to me starting? And recognizing too, that if someone says yes to starting, and then right in the middle of it, they say, please stop, I don't want you to, they have the right to rescind that.
Exactly.
And I love OBs, I love midwives, but I definitely see with OBs and with midwives that there's this protocol and process that happens, and this forgetting that each individual is an individual. And though there are things that are, statistically common, we cannot just blanket everyone with the exact same process. And also too, like, we need to spend time with our clients before the labor. Like, go to more visits with your clients if they want it, so that you can better understand who you're working with, because that will make it better. I definitely see folks of color and low income folks. Again, like I said before, like, if they're in pain, people don't care. Or if they are in pain, they don't create support for them to carry through it. They're just like, let me throw drugs at you. And some people really want to avoid that in their labor process. And if that's always the first response, well, epidural, yeah, that's not enough, like, that's really not enough, because it's amazing. I have definitely seen people move through a labor that normally have said to me they thought they would have gotten an epidural, but instead they've done, heat on the body, like with hot water bottles, movement on the birth ball, me rubbing them down and giving them counter pressure, and their partner giving them a bit of nitrous oxide to take the edge off, and they've had their baby successfully that way, and have said to me after, God, I really thought I was going to go for that epidural, but y'all encouraged me and y'all pushed me forward. And so we also need to, I need more birth workers to be present and encouraging people to believe in themselves, to have their baby the way that they want to, but also creating space for, if they're like, no, I want this to shift, going, okay, cool, we can shift this, right? Yeah. But knowing that fine line in between when someone is giving up on the surface, but that second wind is there. And when someone has really taken themselves to the ringer and they're like, I need rest. And that's when it's like, okay, let's find a way to shift this for you. Yeah. So I think that is sort of some of the stuff that I really want to see change. And less focus on this like statistic for Black women, and more focus on how are we changing this? How are we healing
solutions,
this? Yeah,
instead of
I want the solution.
Focusing on the problem. Yeah, for sure.
We need to be more healing centered, and recognize that labor is a rite of passage. It's not just yes, it's a normal occurrence, but it's a rite of passage. It's a big time for people.
It is.
It's really like a big huge time
shift in your life. You're like
100.
It's gonna completely change your outlook on life.
Yeah. Yeah. And just being present for that. Like, we made, like, yes, I'm at the point where I've seen so many births at this point that I'm like, I'm not unaffected by it, but I'm not going to bawl the way most people when they're watching their partner or a family member. I don't have fear about it anymore. There's no fear like, what could go wrong? And I feel like that's what a lot of people who don't know about birth, that's their first thinking because of what we see on TV.
Yeah.
And TV makes birth really scary. And actually people and women, letting out warrior cries, which is what happens when someone's in labor, is scary because we're not used to hearing women use their voices.
Voices, for sure.
And so people get scared, but I'm not scared no more. But I still have to honor and respect that this may be the last time this person ever does this, and this might be the turning point for their entire life. Yeah. And like, let's just be present for that. Like, let's not be passive about this experience for people, you know? Also don't treat it like it's the only thing that matters in their life, but let's not be passive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what are you doing like
Me?
to change that?
I think that my approach is sort of what I'm trying to do to change it. Like when someone says that something's going on, I'm not going to overlook it and pretend that it's fake. I'm going to do, even if it means that I'm researching something, like if I have no answer to it, I'm not going to let I don't know and let it go to the side be enough. I am going to do my research to find an answer, to find a solution. And I think that we owe it to our clients to do that. You know, like we do one training, and I think anyone who's good at their craft is constantly researching and constantly trying to learn more. I think that by enacting all of the ways that I do my work, so that we were like just talking about, I think that's a way of changing it. If I'm remembering to stay consent focused first, that's going to shift a whole bunch. And so I'm trying my best to just always stay consent focused. Recognizing that I'm not a clinician, so trying to also create peace in like birth room situations. Bringing plant medicine teachings back as a way to, you know, much like many others are, like I'm not the only one out here reclaiming plant medicine teaching, and I'm not the only one that the ancestors are whispering into the ear of about plant medicine. But I think that that's a unique skill that I have that not all doulas have. And also too, like getting a little less biological determinist about like birth care. Like if birth work is so fucking mom centric and womanhood, and men have babies every day, and genderqueer folks have babies, non-binary people have babies every single day. And just by being someone queer in this work, I'm automatically recognizing that and you know, not misgendering people, or not, you know, like which happens so often in a program that's so biological determinist, in an industry that's so biological determinist. So, I mean, all the things we talked about and more, I think is the ways that I'm changing it, but I also encourage others to change it. Like I'm not the only one. And I want to see all of us sort of hop on that line, because those are all things, like what we've spoken about are all things that anyone could just do.
Yeah.
If you just took the time to sit down and learn and took the time to be reflective. I have to constantly reflect on how I'm impacting people. And if we allow ourselves to be accountable to our clients and to ourselves, then we'll automatically be in a reflective state. And that will completely change the way that someone is given care. Do not walk in acting like you're saving people. Walk in humbled, walk in witnessing, walk in knowing you are learning and you are growing just as much as this other person is, and be reflective and accountable. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm doing, but I'm not special. Don't get me wrong. You know, there's tons of spaces, Ancient Song Doula. There's that other doula, Glow Maven, who is getting tons of like hype up right now. And I would not be surprised if we all had similar practices, you know? Yeah.
It's an ideology that needs to be spread and not kept.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like we're doing right now. Yeah.
So you mentioned plant medicine. When I went through your site, because I do my research on people I invite, when I looked through your site, I saw you make your own like is it tinctures? Or?
Yeah, I do tinctures, I do teas, I do vulva soaks, I do skin masks, skin balms. I do a lot of it, syrups.
Do you just like, how do you get these ingredients? Like,
some of it has actually been given to me in dreams. Some of it, when I've sat with elders and healers, they've told me that one of my guides is wanting me to work with this medicine, and so I have to learn about it. There were times when I used to work at the Witch's Brew that people would come by saying that they were feeling a certain something and really needed a tea for it. And the owner, who actually was a midwife, black midwife, would have a whole bunch of different herbs, and I would have to just sit around the herbs and ask inside what is good for this type of pain, and trust that when I got near it, what that feeling of affirmation and alignment is in my body, and mix it up. And then I would look it up later in books or, on peer-reviewed articles online and stuff like that. And I would do my research afterwards to find out that my listening is good. So my learning with plant medicine has been a really big teaching on my listening to when my ancestors speak to me. And dreams is a big one of it. Lately, I have not been dreaming though. So clearly there's some inner child healing that has to happen. But I then will, or if I'm looking for something, like I just do the research myself. Like you can find all of the books that you need that will guide you and teach you on how to do this. And if we just like sit with ourselves and trust our knowing, it's amazing what we can create. Don't get me wrong, I'm not handing out nothing to people that doesn't work. I've tested everything on myself. I actually made myself lactate recently, and I got a clogged duct because I was taking so many prolactin increasers. So prolactin is what creates milk.
Okay.
And I said I've never been pregnant, but I actually made myself lactate because you can induce it just by shifting hormones in the body. That's why trans women can also breastfeed if lactation is induced at like 6 months. Before baby's born. Yeah. It's a hard process, but it can happen. So I try everything on myself, or, those who are willing to be my guinea pigs and test out my medicines before I start like selling them or using them with like clients. But that's where it sort of came from. My grandmother had old remedies and stuff that, I would try to use. Other healers have shown up to me and given me medicines to use. And I've just trusted my listening. And I wish that I could say it was something different. I wish I could say I've been to naturopathy school. I wish I could say I'm a licensed herbalist, but I'm fucking not.
At the end of the day, sometimes, you don't have to go to school to learn shit.
Yeah, 100%.
There's the internet, there's your instincts, there's what comes natural to you.
100%. Well, and certification is actually what killed the tradition of our granny midwives, or our black granny midwives, and them being the ones to run the world of birth work. It's certification, right? So clinical training and doctors that killed our old traditions. So there's also some of me that's like, I don't know that I really want to go to a Western school of herbalism to then certify myself so that someone will go, oh, she knows what she's talking about, when that was never something we required, a fucking piece of paper.
Yeah, for sure.
So I also have no interest in going to herbalism school for anyone who's thinking about buying my products and going, I would love her to get training. I'm not going to, so find someone else.
Talk your shit. So I just want to say thank you so much for your work and being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Guest.
Thanks for having me as a guest.
Yes.
It's like, I can't lie. Like, it's nice to be recognized for the work that you do and to be noticed and to be seen. And thank you for seeing me.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this podcast, you know?
Thank you for seeing me.
Making people be seen and, starting dialogues like this.
Yeah.
Because I don't see people talking about this.
Yeah, no.
And especially about not putting the focus only on women and just like putting it on just people in general who give birth. That includes trans men, non-binary, genderqueer, anybody. It's not just one type of body that can give birth. Is anybody.
Yep.
I wouldn't personally. I don't plan on giving birth, but I encourage, like, if that's you, if you fit that criteria,
do it. Live your best life.
Yes.
How you want. And men look cute pregnant. I don't care what anyone says.
Hello.
Hella cute. There you go. That's something I'd like to see shift with doulas, is actually taking the time to learn about supporting queer and trans folks birthing. That's the next shift.
Yeah.
That's the next shift. And I need us to all go there. And also, if I can say, if you are a queer or trans person who's interested in having a baby or is navigating breastfeeding, chest feeding, any of that, Okama Collective is having an event on June 15th talking about all of these pieces. And it is queer and trans focused. And it'll be folks' lived experiences of inducing lactation, of chest feeding, of breastfeeding, or choosing not to, and what that is for them and has been for them, but also licensed lactation consultants are also going to be present. And then a lot of members of the collective are too. So I'm definitely going to be there if anyone wants to come and like chat it up with me. I talk too much, so I'll be happy to talk to you.
Where's that?
It's going to be at Toronto Birth Center. No, I did not. Haha. It's at the Toronto Birth Center, 525 Dundas Street East. It's going to be on the second floor in the TBC classroom. And it's going to be in the afternoon from 1 until 4. So yeah, please come through on June 15th if you are interested in that. And even if you aren't like planning on having kids, but you like want to know more about birth work or get involved, you want to be a birth worker, please just come be present. It's free.
Yes, and it's free. Free.
Yeah. Free 99.
Exactly.
Just RSVP to us. You can email us at Okama Collective, OCAMA Collective @gmail.com.
Awesome. So
shameless plug.
Yeah, no. That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
At the end of my podcast, I asked my guests what's their queer awkward moment. It doesn't have to be queer, just an awkward moment that happened
my whole life
in the past, present, future. Not future, but you know what I mean. I'll let you think and I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
So recently this happened because weed is legal in Canada. Sorry, United States, but yeah. So I went to a dispensary and I had to show my ID, and my gender is not changed on my ID as yet, because that is a whole other story to change that when you're from Quebec and there's regulations and rules. But anyways,
speak the truth.
So I showed my ID to make sure that I'm above age, and it was like this cis dude that saw my ID, which I have this fear whenever I have to like out myself to another cis man. It really gives me anxiety. So my anxiety was high in this time, and when I like handed my ID, I could not look at him in the eye. I just like took it out and just kept my head low.
Yeah.
Let him look at it. I feel like it was like a lifetime. Like he took like longer than usual to like look at my ID, and then I just like took it back. I went, got my stuff. Then it was time like to go down, because like it's like a spiral stairs kind of. So you have to like go down the stairs, and it's only like one person can like go up or down the stairs, because it's like pretty narrow. And so while I was coming down the stairs, somebody was coming up at the same time, and the guy at the counter was like, oh, like fully loud, and I passed, like, and then he was just like, oh, let this ma'am go through. And at that moment I had like an out of body experience. Fuck. Whenever I'm like in a awkward situation, I just like, I'm very good at not being present. So at that moment, like, I was not present. All I can remember hearing is the people at the bottom is like, ma'am, but isn't that a dude?
Oh, fuck.
And then I just like rushed out. I like I'm pretty sure I pushed people, but I was not in the moment. I just like rushed out. I just like, it was pretty crowded too, that too. So I just like pushed through the crowd and just like skirted off. But that's awkward moment.
That's more than awkward. That's fucking violent.
Yeah.
That's violence. I'm sorry. I don't care what anyone says. That's violence. Fuck. Like the only thing that's coming to me I'm like so sorry. Sorry. Can I just say I'm sorry that fucking happens?
It's okay.
Yeah, I just, like, I apologize for all of us cis dumbass motherfuckers. We're so stupid. We're so fucking stupid. Okay, Mom. I can actually only think about when I met my partner, because I remember I was getting my first tattoo, and I'm covered now from my current partner. I joke that that's the only sex work I still do.
Cue the laughing track.
Yeah, right. Cue the laugh track for my shitty joke. I was an hour late for that tattoo, which I feel like a total asshole for, because I think that people constantly disrespect people who are in a service by showing up late or not being present. And I was an hour late because I'm disrespectful as fuck. But she was mad cool with me. And I remember there was a moment where like I was getting tattooed, and they had asked me about my partner, who they thought was my current partner, but actually was my ex. And I was like, oh, we're no longer seeing each other. And they're just tattooing my arm, right? And we're across each other on a table. And I can see immediately, like, they start sweating, because there's nothing more awkward than being the one who brings up someone's partner, realizing they're a recent ex. But I was like, no, it's cool. You know, like I realize that I'm at a point in my life where I'm looking for someone where, you know, they want to spend time with me and we want to make plans together. And I want to be able to sleep over at their house. And then she goes, yeah. And like when you get up in the morning, you go for brunch together. It's like, yeah. And then you go to the park together. Yeah. And then you can go to Allen's Gardens together. Yeah. And we're just going back and forth, realizing that we literally want the same thing out of a relationship. Then we both just got really silent. And all you can hear is of the needle, right, going, because both of us are clearly going, oh my god, are you the one? Oh my god, are you the one? Oh my god. And we like just met, but like we're having that, like I knew, and talking to her after, we were both having one of those moments where we were like, oh my god. And I didn't know how to like settle it after that, so we just finished the tattoo in silence, because we're both just in our heads, right, being awkward. And I swear, like, cue DJ Pauly D going awkward like the whole time for the rest of that tattoo. And then I was like, how do I make this better? So I just pulled out like a big bag of weed and I was like, do you want to smoke a joint? And she said, in that moment, that's when everything went hazy around you. And it just went, I just died in your arms tonight. Like, she's just like, that's when I knew I fell in love. And so, but for us, while we were doing it, it was like super awkward and also hella queer, because we're both queer as fuck. And I don't know. I feel like I want more like queer love stories. And that was like a moment that if I was writing a movie, I would probably try to re-script that in such a way to put it in the movie. Because I remember being this like, feeling like such a queer baby, because I'd been dating men for so fucking long, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do in order to be a, you know, a good black woman encouraging the race. And here I was like falling in love at first sight and going, oh my God, all I want is this person. And like, really, she's part of who made, like, helped me be my full self. Like, you know how you say you're like walking in your full self feels different and no one can fuck with you. And like, she's a big part of that. And so even though I came out when I was like 13, there's something about her and my relationship that feels like a re-coming out. And so that's sort of like my awkward love moment. Is that a good story? Is that a good queer awkward moment?
It's cute.
Okay.
It's cute. That's a great way to end it.
Yes.
So thank you for
having
tuning in this episode. And where can we find you on social media? You
can find me on Instagram at Seed and Cerasee, SEEDAND CERASEE. So seed like a seed, and the letter N, and Cerasee, the bitter melon leaf. And that's probably the best way to find me. You can also go to my website, seedandcerasee.com, for plant medicine, birth work.
Go get it, buy it. I advise you to get it.
Get that good.
Yes.
Get that good. Comes from the heart.
Honestly. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay awkward.